You walked past that door again today. You didn't open it. You never open it anymore. But you slowed down, just for a second, just like you always do. Maybe you put your hand on the doorknob. Maybe you didn't even get that far. Maybe you just paused, stood there for a moment, and then kept walking, like the kitchen was suddenly very important. But we both know the kitchen could wait. There's something behind that door that nobody really talks about. Not at dinner parties, not with your coworkers, not even with your partner, because they're going through it too. And some things are just too heavy to say out loud. So instead you walk past, day after day, because it's not just a room anymore. It's a before and after. The single clearest line in your entire adult life, drawn not by tragedy, not by anything you did wrong, but something that was supposed to be good news. Your child grew up and left. And if you've ever stood in that hallway, heart doing something you can't quite name, this video is for you. Because what happens inside a parent's mind when that room goes quiet is one of the most profound and most overlooked psychological experiences of adult life. And nobody is talking about it honestly. Here's something nobody tells you when you're in the middle of raising kids. You're so focused on surviving it, the sleepless nights, the school runs, the teenage arguments, the constant noise, the constant need, that you never stop to think about what comes after. And why would you? After feels like forever away. But then one day, and it always feels sudden, even when you saw it coming, the house changes. You wake up and it's quiet. Not peaceful quiet, not Sunday morning quiet. A different kind of quiet. The kind that has weight to it. The kind that you can feel pressing against the walls. You probably told yourself you were fine. You probably meant it in the moment. You were proud. Of course you were proud. This is what you worked for all those years. This is the whole point. But here's something that takes people by surprise. Pride and grief can live in the same body at the same time. And a lot of parents, good parents, loving parents, parents who did everything right, find themselves months later standing in that hallway, feeling something heavy and shapeless that they don't have a name for. Because your child is healthy, your child is happy, your child calls on Sundays. So why does it feel like something died? Psychologists call it empty nest syndrome. But honestly, that name doesn't come close to capturing what this actually is. A syndrome sounds temporary, clinical, like a headache, like something that passes. This is something older than that, something deeper. This is the end of an era. And the room is where you feel it most. Let's talk about that room. Because I think you already know, somewhere beneath all the busyness of daily life, that it is not just a room. Rooms hold memory in a way that almost nothing else does. Not photographs. Photographs are flat. Not videos. Videos play and then stop. A room holds the physical memory. The smell when you open the door. The particular quality of light through those curtains at 4 in the afternoon. The scuff on the baseboard that you always meant to fix and somehow never did. The ceiling they stared at during 1,000 ordinary nights. Your nervous system knows all of it. When you stand outside that room, you are not just standing outside a room. You are standing outside every version of your child that ever existed inside it. The toddler who was afraid of the dark and called for you at 2 in the morning. The 7-year-old who needed just 5 more minutes, please, just 5. The 12-year-old doing homework at that desk, pretending not to want your help. The teenager who put a sign on the door that said, "Knock first," and meant it. The young adult who was somehow already almost gone even before they left. All of them are still in there, frozen, unchanged, yours. Some parents respond by leaving the room exactly as it was. The posters still on the walls, the books still on the shelf, everything untouched, like a pause button, like if you keep it exactly right, the story isn't really over. Other parents repaint within a month. Home office, guest room, gym equipment they use twice. Fill the space with purpose so the absence doesn't have room to breathe. Both of these are completely understandable, and both, if we're being honest, are grief. Not sadness. Sadness passes by Tuesday. Not loneliness. Loneliness is about who's around you. Grief. The loss of a chapter. The loss of a daily rhythm that organized your entire existence. The loss of a version of yourself, the version that was needed every single day without question. Here's why the room hurts more than the actual day they left. The brain is, above everything else, a pattern machine. It is constantly, automatically scanning everything around you and comparing it to what it expects to find. And for the last 15, 18, 20 plus years, your brain had one of the most deeply wired patterns of your entire life. There is a child in this house. Not as a thought you chose to have, as a biological fact, encoded through thousands of repeated mornings. The sound of their alarm, their footsteps in the hallway, the specific chaos of getting out the door on a school day. These weren't just routines, they were the architecture of who you were. Psychologist Dr. Kenneth Doka has spent decades studying what he calls disenfranchised grief, grief that society doesn't fully recognize or make space for. When someone dies, the world shows up. People bring food, they check on you, they say the right things. But nobody sends flowers when your kid moves out. Nobody asks how you're doing 3 months later, when the house is still quiet on Saturday mornings and you bought too much food again at the grocery store because your hands they did it automatically. Because from the outside, everything looks like success. You raised a human being from nothing. You kept them alive and safe and loved, and somehow turned them into a person capable of leaving. That is the entire point. You did it exactly right. But the brain doesn't register it as success. The brain registers it as a pattern, broken. And the room is where that broken pattern lives. The rest of the house slowly adjusts. You cook less, you do less laundry, but the room stays frozen. And every single time you walk past it, your brain does something automatic, something you cannot stop. It checks. Are they home? And every time, every single time, the answer is no. I want you to hear something that doesn't get said enough. The fact that this hurts is not a problem. It is not weakness. It is not something to push through or be embarrassed about. It is evidence. Evidence that you loved someone so completely, so consistently, for so long, that their absence genuinely reorganizes your world. That is not ordinary. The room is not a monument to loss. It is a monument to everything that happened inside it. Every fever you sat through, every nightmare you chased away at midnight, every conversation that started at bedtime and lasted an hour because something was bothering them and they needed to talk. And you were there. You were always there. The grief you feel walking past that door is not the grief of failure. It is the grief of having done something that mattered. Completely. Fully. With everything you had. So if you've been avoiding that hallway, that's okay. You're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. You're a parent in the middle of one of the most quietly devastating transitions in human life. There will come a day when you walk past that door and something feels different. The weight will still be there. It never fully goes. But underneath it, something softer. Something that feels less like loss and more like gratitude for the noise, for the chaos, for every ordinary Wednesday morning you didn't know you'd miss. The room will always hold that. Nothing takes it away. If this reached you today, leave a comment. Just one word if that's all you have, because somewhere out there another parent is standing in that same hallway, and they need to know they're not alone.